The aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the small cafe as Alex Hayes stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled, signaling his arrival, but no one paid much attention. In his worn jeans and a faded jacket, he looked like any other customer in the modest establishment. Finding a corner table, Alex slid into the seat, his fingers brushing over the cup of coffee he had ordered to calm his nerves. He glanced at his watch, noting there were still 10 minutes before his blind date was scheduled to arrive. "Let's see if she's different," he muttered under his breath, taking a sip of the bitter brew. This wasn't the first time Alex had gone on a blind date, but it was the first time he was deliberately testing someone. Tired of superficial relationships that revolved around his wealth, he had decided to disguise himself as an average man. No designer suits, no luxury watches, just him, stripped of the layers that often defined him in the eyes of others. The doorbell jingled again, and Alex looked up. A woman in a simple blue dress and a beige coat entered, her eyes scanning the room nervously. Her chestnut brown hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and she clutched her purse tightly, her steps hesitant. "Chloe?" Alex called out, standing awkwardly. Her eyes landed on him, and she offered a tentative smile. "Hi, you must be Alex." "That's me," he said, extending a hand. "Sorry if I'm not what you expected." Chloe's smile widened as she shook his hand. "You're exactly what I expected, a normal guy." They settled into their seats, and Alex found himself studying her closely. Chloe had an easy, approachable demeanor, and her eyes sparkled with genuine curiosity. "So, tell me," Chloe began, stirring sugar into her coffee, "what do you do?" Alex hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "I work odd jobs, mostly. Construction, deliveries, whatever pays the bills." Chloe nodded, her expression neutral. "That must be tough, but at least it keeps you active, right?" Alex chuckled. "Yeah, you could say that. What about you?" "I'm a teacher," Chloe said, her tone brightening. "Third grade. It's challenging, but I love it." "Third grade. That sounds like a lot of energy to manage." She laughed, the sound light and musical. "It is, but it's worth it. Seeing the kids learn and grow is the best part." As they talked, Alex couldn't help but notice how Chloe didn't flinch at his modest background, or what she thought was his background. She didn't probe or judge, instead focusing on their conversation with sincere interest. Halfway through the date, Alex accidentally knocked over his coffee cup, spilling the contents across the table. "Oh shoot," he muttered, grabbing napkins to mop up the mess. "Here, let me help," Chloe said, her hands quick to join his. "Thanks," Alex said, embarrassed. "Not exactly my smoothest moment." "It happens," Chloe said with a shrug, her smile unwavering. "Honestly, I'm just glad you're not one of those guys who spends the whole date talking about himself." Alex blinked. "Is that a common problem?" "More than you'd think," Chloe said with a laugh. Her remark made Alex relax. She wasn't putting on airs or playing games. She seemed refreshingly real. As the conversation continued, Alex noticed something that made him pause. Chloe's responses weren't just polite, they were thoughtful. She asked questions that showed she was genuinely interested in him as a person, not in what he could offer. When the check arrived, Alex reached for his wallet, but Chloe stopped him. "I've got this," she said, pulling out her card. "What? No, I should." "Please," Chloe insisted. "You've been a perfect gentleman. Consider it my treat." Alex hesitated, his hand still on his wallet. He had deliberately brought just enough cash for a modest meal, part of his effort to maintain his disguise. But Chloe's gesture left him momentarily speechless. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Positive," she said, smiling. "Besides, it's just coffee." As they stepped outside, the evening air cool against their faces, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that Chloe had caught him off guard in more ways than one. "Thanks for meeting me," Alex said, shoving his hands into his jacket pockets. "Thanks for inviting me," Chloe replied. "I had a great time." "So did I," Alex admitted, his voice soft. Chloe looked at him for a moment, her smile warm and genuine. "Well, good night, Alex." "Good night, Chloe," he said, watching as she walked away. Standing alone under the dim streetlights, Alex's thoughts raced. Chloe's kindness and warmth had surprised him, and her gesture of paying for their coffee had left him questioning his assumptions. Was she truly as selfless as she seemed, or was there more to her story? As Alex headed back to his car, he couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. For the first time in a long while, he wondered if he might have found someone worth knowing, not for her looks, her charm, or her background, but for the person she truly was. And he wasn't about to let this end here. The floor-to-ceiling windows of Alex's penthouse framed the glittering skyline of the city. The apartment was a masterpiece of modern design, sleek furniture, marble countertops, and walls adorned with rare artwork. Yet, as Alex leaned against the edge of the grand kitchen island, sipping a glass of scotch, it all felt strangely hollow. He set the glass down with a quiet clink and gazed out at the lights below. His thoughts drifted to Chloe and the way she had smiled at him without hesitation, without judgment. She hadn't blinked at his frayed jacket or the cheap coffee he ordered. I might have underestimated her, Alex murmured to himself. His mind traveled back to the blind date setup. His assistant had suggested Chloe, describing her as a warm and genuine person, but Alex had been skeptical. After years of shallow encounters, he had built walls around himself, using his wealth as both a shield and a weapon. The bitterness of his last relationship surfaced in his thoughts. He could still hear Vanessa's words ringing in his ears. "Alex, you're amazing, but honestly, what's the point if you won't spend your money? Isn't that the best part of being with you?" He had walked away that night, realizing she wasn't in love with him, just the lifestyle he could provide. That was when the idea of this experiment had begun to take shape. "Better to know now than later," Alex muttered, pushing the memory aside. Meanwhile, across town, Chloe sat in her modest living room, her feet tucked beneath her on the worn-out couch. Her sister Mia was sprawled on the floor, textbooks and notes spread around her, while their grandmother dozed in a recliner. "So?" Mia asked, glancing up from her studies. "How was the big blind date?" Chloe chuckled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "It was different." Mia raised an eyebrow. "Different how?" "Well, for one, he's not what I expected," Chloe admitted, a small smile tugging at her lips. "He's quirky, a little awkward, but sweet. Definitely not one of those polished, slick guys you'd expect on a blind date." "Quirky, huh?" Mia teased. "Sounds promising." Chloe laughed. "Don't get ahead of yourself, it was just coffee. But I liked him. He seemed real, you know. Like he wasn't trying to impress me." "That's rare," Mia said, her tone softening. "Especially these days." Chloe nodded, her thoughts drifting back to Alex's warm smile and the way he had listened so intently to her stories. Back at the penthouse, Alex was still deep in thought. He had watched Chloe carefully during their date, waiting for the subtle signs of judgment or discomfort that he had seen so many times before. But they never came. Instead, she had paid for their coffee without a second thought, laughed at his clumsiness, and seemed genuinely interested in his so-called ordinary life. Alex walked into his study, the dark wood-paneled walls lined with shelves of books and memorabilia from his travels. He pulled out a notepad and jotted down an idea for their next meeting. "A park," he said aloud. "Someplace simple. Let's see how she handles that." Across the city, Chloe's evening was winding down. She checked on her grandmother, who was now fast asleep, and helped Mia pack up her study materials. As they cleaned up, Mia looked at her sister thoughtfully. "You seem happy tonight," Mia said. Chloe paused, considering her words. "I think I am," she said softly. "Alex seems different. Like he doesn't care about all the surface stuff. It was nice talking to someone like that." Mia smiled. "Maybe this one's worth seeing again." Chloe shrugged, though the warmth in her expression betrayed her interest. "We'll see. It's just one date." But as Chloe climbed into bed that night, her thoughts kept returning to Alex, his shy smile, his easy laughter, and the kindness that seemed to radiate from him. The next morning, Alex finalized his plan. He texted Chloe, suggesting they meet at a local park for a walk and a picnic. Her reply came quickly. "Sounds perfect. Looking forward to it." Alex set the phone down and took a deep breath. The test was still on, but something had shifted. He wasn't just testing Chloe anymore, he was beginning to hope she might actually pass. "Let's see how far this goes," he said, a small smile playing on his lips, as he imagined her reaction to the next date. In the back of his mind, though, a flicker of doubt lingered. He wondered if he was pushing the boundaries too far, or if Chloe might have secrets of her own. The sun cast a golden glow over the park as Alex spread out a checkered picnic blanket beneath a tall oak tree. The hum of distant laughter and the chatter of families created a soothing background melody. Chloe arrived a few minutes later, carrying a small basket and looking around curiously. "This is unexpected," she said with a smile, setting the basket down. "What can I say? I like to keep things simple," Alex replied, gesturing for her to sit. Chloe smoothed her skirt and sat down, her gaze sweeping across the park. Most people wouldn't think a park is a great date spot. Alex chuckled. Most people don't see the beauty in the little things. Chloe tilted her head, intrigued by his words. You're full of surprises, Alex. As they unpacked their food, sandwiches, fruit, and a thermos of lemonade, the conversation flowed easily. Chloe shared stories about her childhood, painting vivid pictures of summer days, spent climbing trees and building forts with her younger sister Mia. And then, Chloe said, laughing, the branch snapped, and we both ended up in the creek. Mia was fine, but I got grounded for a week. Alex laughed along with her, enjoying the warmth in her voice. Sounds like you were the adventurous type. Still am, Chloe admitted, her eyes twinkling. What about you? Any wild childhood stories? Alex hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I guess I spent a lot of time moving around. My parents traveled for work, so I got to see a lot of places. But it made things complicated. Chloe's expression softened. That must have been hard. Always being the new kid. It was, Alex said, surprised by how easy it was to open up to her. But I guess it taught me to appreciate the little things, like a quiet afternoon in the park. As the conversation deepened, Chloe began talking about her passion for teaching. I love working with kids, she said. But it's not just about academics. It's about giving them a safe space to grow, to believe in themselves. Alex nodded, captivated by the sincerity in her voice. It sounds like you're doing more than just teaching. You're changing lives. Chloe smiled, her cheeks flushing slightly. I hope so. One day I'd love to open a learning center for underprivileged kids. A place where they can get help with schoolwork, but also feel supported. Something stirred in Alex as he listened. Her dream wasn't about fame or fortune, it was about making a difference. It was so unlike the ambitions he was used to hearing from people in his circle. As the afternoon turned to evening, Alex walked Chloe back to her car. They joked and teased each other along the way, the easy camaraderie between them growing with each step. But when they reached her car, Chloe groaned. Not again, she muttered, staring at the vehicle. What's wrong? Alex asked. She gestured to the car, which refused to start. It's been acting up for weeks. I guess it finally decided to give up. Alex stepped forward. Let me take a look. But Chloe stopped him, holding up her hands. No, it's fine. I can handle it. Alex frowned. Are you sure? I don't mind. Chloe laughed lightly, though there was an edge of frustration in her tone. Thanks, but I'm used to this. Bad luck and I are old friends. Alex watched as she called a friend for a ride, her calm demeanor masking what he suspected was mounting stress. She was independent to a fault, determined to handle everything on her own. That night, as Alex sat in his penthouse, her words echoed in his mind. Bad luck and I are old friends. Curiosity got the better of him, and he pulled out his laptop. With a few keystrokes, he began researching Chloe's background. What he found only deepened his respect for her. Chloe's modest income as a teacher barely covered her expenses, yet she managed to care for her younger sister and their grandmother. Her financial situation was precarious, but she never let it show. Alex leaned back in his chair, conflicted. His deception felt heavier now, knowing how hard Chloe worked to stay positive and make ends meet. She deserves to know the truth, he muttered. But a part of him still hesitated, afraid of ruining what they had begun to build. As he stared out at the city lights, Alex realized he was no longer testing Chloe, he was falling for her. And he wasn't sure what to do about it. The warm glow of candlelight bathed the small bistro as Alex and Chloe sat across from each other at a quiet table by the window. Their third date had been Chloe's suggestion, a cozy spot known for its homemade pasta and intimate atmosphere. Alex scanned the menu, smiling as Chloe enthusiastically debated between two dishes. Everything looks amazing, she said, her finger trailing down the list. You can't go wrong, Alex replied, setting his menu aside. When the waiter returned, Chloe ordered a simple pasta dish while Alex opted for the chef's special. The waiter then suggested a wine pairing, and Alex nodded confidently. The Barolo will pair well with her dish, and I'll have the chat you neuf du pape. Chloe raised an eyebrow, her lips curving into a teasing smile. I thought you said you weren't much of a wine guy? Alex froze for a split second, then cleared his throat. Yeah, I read a lot. Picked up a few things here and there. Chloe laughed lightly, her eyes sparkling. Well, I'm impressed. Most people wouldn't know their Barolos from their Bordeaux. Alex forced a chuckle, inwardly cursing himself for slipping. He had been so careful to maintain his humble facade, but his automatic response had betrayed his real background. The evening progressed, and the slip seemed forgotten. Chloe spoke animatedly about her work and the progress she was making with her community project, a weekend tutoring program for underprivileged kids. "The problem is funding," she admitted. "We need supplies, better facilities. Sometimes it feels impossible." "You're doing something incredible, Chloe," Alex said earnestly. "Don't lose hope." She smiled, the sincerity in his voice bolstering her resolve. "Thanks, Alex. That means a lot." Despite her appreciation, Alex felt a pang of guilt. He could solve her funding issues in an instant, but revealing his wealth now would undo everything he'd been trying to build with her. A week later, Chloe invited Alex to a neighborhood charity event she was helping organize. The community center buzzed with energy, kids laughing, parents chatting, and volunteers bustling about. Chloe was in her element, directing activities and mingling with ease. Alex watched her from a distance, admiration swelling in his chest. She wasn't just kind, she was a force for good, pouring her heart into helping others despite her own challenges. During the event, Alex slipped away to speak with the center's director, an older woman named Marcy. "I'd like to help," he said discreetly, handing her an envelope. Marcy's eyes widened as she peeked inside. This is incredible. Are you sure?" "Completely," Alex replied. "But please keep it anonymous." Marcy nodded, her gratitude evident. "Thank you. This will make a world of difference." The next day, Chloe was ecstatic. She called Alex, barely able to contain her excitement. "Alex, you won't believe this. Someone donated enough money to cover the program's expenses for the entire year." "That's amazing," Alex said, feigning surprise. "Do you know who it was?" "No," Chloe admitted. "They insisted on remaining anonymous. But whoever they are, they're a lifesaver." Alex smiled to himself, relieved that she hadn't connected the dots. That evening, Alex's best friend, Ethan, stopped by his penthouse. Ethan, a sharp and pragmatic lawyer, had been privy to Alex's plan from the start, but had always voiced his doubts. "Still playing the poor guy, huh?" Ethan asked, lounging on the couch with a glass of scotch. "It's not a game, Ethan," Alex replied, pacing by the window. "I needed to know if she could love me for me, not for the money, not for the name." Ethan took a sip, his gaze skeptical. "And? What's the verdict?" "She's different," Alex said, his tone softening. "She's real. Everything I've ever wanted." Ethan leaned forward, setting his glass down. "Then tell her the truth. Sooner or later she's going to find out. And if she finds out from someone else, it won't matter how real she is, she'll feel betrayed." Alex ran a hand through his hair, frustration bubbling to the surface. "I know. I don't want to lose her." Ethan stood, clapping a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Then stop lying to her. Trust me, man, honesty's your only shot at keeping this thing alive." As Ethan left, Alex stared out at the city, the weight of his deception pressing down on him. He had thought the charade would protect him, but now it felt like a ticking time bomb. The question wasn't if Chloe would find out, it was when, and Alex wasn't sure if their connection could survive the fallout. The elegant hum of conversation filled the high-end restaurant as Alex sat at a private table near the back, flanked by two sharp-dressed business associates. His demeanor was entirely different, confident, authoritative, and polished in a way Chloe had never seen. She had walked into the restaurant by chance, accompanying her friend to a last-minute dinner. Spotting Alex from across the room, she froze. He wasn't the Alex she knew, the modest, unassuming man with the worn jacket and kind smile. Instead, he was dressed in a tailored suit, his every movement exuding wealth and power. Chloe's stomach twisted as she overheard snippets of their conversation. Words like merger, assets, and multi-million-dollar deal floated toward her, each one chipping away at the image she thought she knew. Her friend tugged at her arm. "Chloe, are you okay?" Yeah," Chloe stammered, her gaze locked on Alex. He hadn't noticed her yet, but she couldn't stay. "I need to go." The next day, Chloe's emotions simmered somewhere between anger and heartbreak. She replayed the scene in her mind, wondering how she could have been so blind. When Alex called her, she answered curtly. "Chloe, can we talk, please?" he asked, his voice tinged with nervousness. "Sure," she replied, her tone clipped. "Come over." An hour later, Alex arrived at Chloe's apartment. She opened the door, her arms crossed and her expression guarded. "Come in," she said flatly. Alex stepped inside, his usual ease replaced by unease. He sat on the couch, but Chloe remained standing, her eyes narrowing. "So," she began, her voice steady but cold, "who are you, really?" "Because the man I met at the cafe isn't the one I saw last night." Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Chloe, I can explain. Then start explaining, she snapped, her voice breaking slightly. Why did you lie to me? I didn't mean to, Alex said, his eyes pleading. At first I just wanted to see if someone could care about me, not my money, not my name. So I kept it from you. But then I met you, and you were everything I wasn't expecting. Chloe crossed her arms tighter, her anger bubbling to the surface. And you thought pretending to be someone else was the best way to find out. I know it was wrong, Alex admitted. But Chloe, what we have, it's real. That's why I couldn't stop seeing you, even when I knew I should have told you the truth. Chloe shook her head, stepping away from him. How can I believe that? You didn't trust me enough to be honest. How can I trust you now? Alex stood, desperate to make her understand. Because I care about you, Chloe. More than I've ever cared about anyone. I was scared of losing you, and I messed up. But everything I've felt, everything I've said, it's all been real. Chloe's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away, unwilling to let him see how deeply he'd hurt her. I need time, she said quietly. I can't do this right now. Chloe, please. No, she cut him off, her voice trembling. Just go. Alex hesitated, his heart breaking at the distance between them. But he nodded, knowing he had to respect her wishes. I'm sorry, he said, his voice heavy with regret. As the door closed behind him, Chloe sank onto the couch, her mind and heart in turmoil. The following days were a blur. Chloe threw herself into her teaching and her family, trying to bury her pain in the familiar rhythms of her life. She couldn't shake the memory of Alex, the man she thought she knew and the man he turned out to be. Meanwhile, Alex wrestled with his own guilt. Ethan's words echoed in his mind, you should have told her the truth. Now, all you can do is prove to her you're worth it. One evening, as Chloe graded papers at her kitchen table, an ornate envelope arrived in the mail. She opened it, her brow furrowing as she read the contents. You are cordially invited to a gala hosted by Alexander Hayes. Below, a handwritten note was attached. Chloe, please come. I owe you the full truth, and I want to show you what you mean to me. Alex. Chloe stared at the invitation, her emotions swirling. Part of her wanted to ignore it, to shut him out completely. But another part, one that she couldn't quite silence, was curious. Did she owe him a chance to explain? As the clock ticked on, Chloe remained torn, the invitation clutched in her hands. The decision she made would change everything. The grand ballroom was a spectacle of elegance, filled with glittering chandeliers, flowing champagne, and an orchestra playing softly in the background. Chloe stood near the entrance, nervously adjusting the hem of her simple black dress. She almost hadn't come but ultimately decided she needed closure, if nothing else. A host approached her with a warm smile. Miss Bennett, Mr. Hayes is waiting for you. Chloe nodded and followed, her heart pounding as she entered the main hall. The crowd was abuzz with conversation, but all she could focus on was Alex standing on the stage, looking right at her. The orchestra quieted as Alex stepped up to the microphone, his gaze sweeping the room before landing firmly on Chloe. He took a deep breath, the usual confidence in his demeanor replaced by vulnerability. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. This event isn't just about celebrating success, it's about honesty, connection, and the people who make us better. He paused, his eyes softening as he continued. For most of my life, I've struggled to trust. I've hidden behind my wealth, afraid that people only cared about what I had, not who I was. But then, I met someone who changed everything. The room fell silent as Alex's gaze locked onto Chloe. Chloe Bennett, you showed me that love isn't about appearances, it's about seeing someone's heart. And your heart is the most beautiful thing I've ever known. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd as Alex continued, unflinching. I was wrong to test you. I was wrong to hide who I was. But through it all, you showed me what kindness, resilience, and love truly look like. You inspired me, Chloe. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Chloe's breath caught in her throat as Alex stepped down from the stage, the crowd parting as he approached her. He stopped in front of her, his eyes filled with hope and vulnerability. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking for a second chance. Can we start over? Chloe's lips trembled as she blinked back tears. I can't say I'm happy about the test, she admitted, her voice soft but firm. But I believe you, and I believe in us. The room erupted into applause as Alex smiled, relief washing over him. He reached for her hand, and she took it, feeling the warmth of his sincerity. Weeks later, Chloe received an unexpected message from Alex. He asked her to meet him at a downtown address, offering no explanation. When she arrived, she found herself standing in front of a beautiful, newly renovated building. The sign above the door read, Bennett Learning Center. Chloe gasped, her hand flying to her mouth as Alex appeared behind her, holding a small set of keys. "I know how much this dream means to you," he said, his voice full of emotion. "So I wanted to help you make it a reality. This place belongs to you now." Tears spilled down Chloe's cheeks as she turned to face him. "Alex, I don't even know what to say." Alex smiled, dropping to one knee in front of her, a small velvet box in his hand. "You've taught me what love really means," he said, his voice steady. "Will you let me spend my life proving it to you?" Chloe laughed through her tears, her heart overflowing. "Yes, but only if you promise no more secrets." "Deal," Alex said, slipping the ring onto her finger. Their wedding was a perfect blend of their worlds, elegant yet intimate, filled with friends, family, and the children from Chloe's new learning center. As Alex and Chloe shared their first dance, the room seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them in their own universe. Chloe leaned in close, her voice a whisper. "You didn't need to test me, you know." Alex smiled, pulling her a little closer. "I didn't need to test you," he agreed. "I just needed to find you." And as they danced under the soft glow of the lights, they knew they had found something worth holding on to forever. As Alex and Chloe danced into their happily ever after, their story reminds us that love isn't about appearances or wealth, it's about trust, growth, and seeing the beauty in each other's hearts. If this story touched you as much as it touched us, don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who believes in the power of love and second chances. Make sure to subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more heartwarming tales that inspire, uplift, and remind us of the extraordinary in everyday life. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss another story that speaks to your soul. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.